Let's begin by grabbing our t-shirt from the garment library by either double-clicking or dragging it onto your workspace. Say OK to the default settings and go ahead and simulate. We're going to zoom in to get a better look at our fabric here, which is the default jersey. It's a bit flat, untextured, which isn't as true to life as I would like, so let's jump into our fabric library here and select our knit cotton jersey. Drag it into your object browser. Then you can select all your pattern pieces and drag that new fabric onto your patterns. Because simulation is still going, you'll see the change in the drape of your fabric instantly. But to get a better look at the texture, we'll zoom in again. Now we can focus on our neckband. Start by returning to your fabric library and this time drag the rib 1x1 319 GSM to your object browser. Then apply it to your neckband pattern pieces. Now let's just zoom in here one last time to really get a good look at our textures. That's great. Now, let's simplify our neckband here by connecting our front and back patterns. Grab your Edit Pattern tool and select the seam edge of your back neck pattern. Then the corresponding one on the front while holding down Shift. Open up your Options menu and select Merge. Repeat this for the opposite side to get one whole neckband pattern. It's a small step that can cut your work in half later in the process. Let's make a few adjustments to our fabric in the property editor before moving forward with this neckband piece. Because it's a stock fabric, a lot of the default settings here should be pretty familiar. If you plan to put this t-shirt into production, you'll probably need to fill in this information section. Here you have front, back, and side options, which allow you to account for any variations in that department for your fabric. Even though it's a knit, you can still alter the texture in the Type drop-down window. But what we'll focus on for now is changing our color while maintaining the integrity of our fabric. We can do that by selecting the box next to Desaturation. That will automatically remove the brown color, leaving it a pale gray. From there, we can brighten it up by lowering the shadow intensity to 1 and increasing the brightness to 30. So this is a really easy, non-destructive way of removing color from a preloaded fabric, because from here, we can change our neckband to any color using our regular palette. But first, let's simulate. Looks great. Now we need to work on refining our neckband edge so that it looks rolled, and we'll start by copying and pasting our original. Once we have our duplicate, we're going to extend the bottom edge slightly, so go ahead and grab your Edit Pattern tool and select the bottom line segments. Open your Options menu and Offset Pattern Outline. Make sure your direction says Extend, and we'll make distance 1/4 inch. We can keep the other presets, however, you'll want to make sure the Create Internal Line box is checked before you click OK. In order for us to get something that looks like a realistic neckband, we'll have to stitch both top and bottom edges together. So you can see how that comes together. I'll make the facing visible by selecting it in 2D and using the gizmo to move it out from underneath the top layer in 3D. Because this piece is pre-sewn, I think it might be worth our time to take a look at how our seams are coming together before adding any more. So I'm using the Edit Sewing tool to select a few stitch lines to get a better idea of how things are connecting. Okay, I'm ready to sew. Let's grab the segment sewing tool and first stitch the original sewing line of our facing piece to our neck. From there, we can stitch our top edges. Once you've done that, you can select the facing piece, open your 3D options menu, and select Superimpose Under. At this point, you can make your avatar invisible by selecting it in your 3D avatar display menu. You can simulate now, and for the most part, it looks okay. But there seems to be a little bit of a collision issue, which we'll have to go into our Set Sublayer tool to resolve. If you're new to the Sublayer tool, it's something that you'll use quite a bit in order to prevent issues between your layers. I want my top neckband pattern to be on top, so I'll click once on that pattern piece, then hover down to the bottom and click once there. As you can see, in 3D, that automatically registers and the facing instantly goes inside your shirt, which is where it should be. However, I would like to stitch that bottom edge of the facing into my neckline to keep everything flat, but I'll need a line to stitch it to, so I'll have to add one. First, I'll switch back to the Edit Pattern tool and select my front neckline. I'll open my option menu and offset an internal line. All of our defaults look good here, so you can click OK and do the same for your back neck. From here, we can grab our segment sewing tool and stitch the lower edge of your neckband facing to your internal lines, making sure your stitching is straight in the 3D window as you go. When you're done, you can simulate. We can start refining the details of our neckband from here by selecting our pattern piece, and in the property editor, we can change the particle distance to 2. There's so much more definition in the drape and texture with that simple change. Let's also bring the facing particle distance down to 2. We do have a few minor bumps that we can work on later, but for now, let's make the more important changes, like selecting the facing piece, opening our options menu, and going to flip normal in order to see the right side of your neckband fabric. If you set the sublayer earlier with me, that will appear once you flip the fabric. So we'll have to reverse that action by clicking back on the Set Sublayer tool and on the arrow we added earlier. Click on the plus sign in the center to eliminate the collision in our 3D window. Okay, let's finish up our neckband. We'll work a little more on making our neckband look seamless, but let's turn off our simulation. I'll zoom in a bit here so you can see what I mean by seamless. It's a minor detail, definitely worth exploring. Let's first grab our Edit Sewing tool. Select one edge of your neckband, then move to the Property Editor. Under the 3D seam line, you can bring both the intensity and thickness down to 0. Let's see how that looks in 3D. Amazing. Our seam is gone now, and that ribbed neckband looks like a folded piece. We can apply this to the other edges as well. Let's simulate one last time to see how everything looks. Except for those little bumps across the top edges that came from lowering the particle distance, you should be in the clear and super proud of your perfectly crafted 3D neckband.